NHL Playoffs Round 2. We're going to take a look at it. Ted, Sports USA. I finally got to hear you on the radio in the playoffs. You were great in between the games.
Thank you.
Loved hearing you.
But it's round 2 is over. We're on to round 3. I don't know about you.
Round 3, you're right. I'm never going to get these right.
That's okay. I thought I was in a time warp.
What's the inside scoop from your contacts? What was your outlook at how round 2 finished, and do you have any inside tidbits going into round 3?
Well, I don't know about inside. Look, there's not a whole lot we could talk about from the game that ended last night, because that new series is coming up in a hurry, when Tampa Bay's got 9 days off and the Rangers get an hour off. So it's going to be a fascinating game 1. I love the first 2 rounds. They were just fantastic. I didn't like the outcomes as much. They made me look pretty bad on a couple of occasions. As we were talking off air, Carolina, total disappointment. Calgary, if not as bad, worse. So it's not the way I thought it was going to be, but maybe that's what makes it more fun. I didn't have any money on it. You guys come from a different perspective.
Lou, how did round 2 treat you?
Round 2 was a profitable round. However, I go 5 steps backwards with future bets on Carolina and Calgary. And Calgary, okay. They underestimated a better team. So did I. Carolina, I'm going to be less critical of. Listen, the loss of Anderson was a kick in the groin. It happened before they could do anything about it. They had to go with Ranta. I hold myself accountable for being late to make that adjustment off of him before Game 7, but it is what it is. And so now I have my Rangers future for the Whales in hand, and now I look forward because it's in the rear view now. Can't do anything about what's happened. It's profit time looking ahead.
I don't agree, by the way, with the Freddie Anderson stuff as much. I thought Ranta was fine. He had some lapses. Freddie Anderson is not Patrick Waugh, so
Yes, but Freddie Anderson finally got an opportunity to play with a blue line in front of him, and he was over exceeding expectation. And that team needed him, and the way they played in Game 7, you knew they were playing without him. That's my take.
That's fine, but I can't put money on hoping a guy's going to do a Willis Reed. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. My feel was that we were going to see Anderson sometime in this series, and isn't that kind of what was out there?
Potentially, although Brindamore said the whole time, we don't know when he's coming back, and I believe him. Brindamore is not the kind of coach to BS you as much as most do. He is a straightforward guy, and not that he's going to say what day he's coming back or anything like that, but he's not playing games with you. So I didn't expect him back until he came back, to be honest. And now he'll be back next year, which is fine.
Well, round 2 didn't treat me as well. Lou and I went heads up on the Tampa, Florida series, obviously. But I got my lumps handed to me on Carolina, laying 2-1, which was not a pleasant loss. And so I split out those 2 series, and I put in a small in-series plus 170 on Calgary, and that was a disappointment. So not too happy. But, getting back to expectations, tonight's game, we're going into Colorado and Edmonton here. And let me put the odds on the bottom of the screen here. The tale of 2 goaltenders, Smith, who scares the hell out of me, but he's performing extremely well. He's over 11 goals in positive goal expectation, so to speak. So he's very good. Colorado, on the other hand, they've got a problem. Lowest performing goaltender in expected goals so far. So how do you guys see this series mapping out? I think the series price is just a little bit high. I don't really feel like I can get involved in the series price out of the gate. What about you guys?
Well, I don't agree with your goaltending assessment there at all. I think Mike Smith is He's inconsistent. He's had really good moments throughout this playoffs, and he's had the worst moments you could ever imagine. And when his guy goes roaming out of the crease like he does, he looks like I used to joke when I was doing play-by-play, looks like he's skating into the parking lot. He's just leaving town, and he scares the hell out of me, to be honest with you. Even though for a 40-year-old, I give him a lot of credit. And Darcy Kemper, I give him an edge over Mike Smith. So I don't know what you're watching or what those numbers say. I don't care what those numbers say. I'm not a giant Kemper fan at all, but I think this suits him nicely. I think he's going to settle in, and this is just going to be I figure to be a high-scoring affair anyway. You got two teams that are averaging, I believe it's 4.3 goals per game in the playoffs. And I think the over-unders in the game one is 7. So that tells you all you need to know right there. Now, we might have a 2-1 game one, but I seriously doubt it.
What say you, Lou?
I'm still formulating opinions. I tend to think that, like you do, Chris, that the price is the Avs finally won a second round game. That's great, but they've never shown me anything past the second round, and this is new for them, and as new as it is maybe for Edmonton. The coach for Edmonton's young, but he's good. Edmonton has, in their last 50 games, over-exceeded, and that's when the coach came, and that's despite Mike Smith. So I see this as a much more competitive series than people think. As I'm looking at tonight's game specifically, there's one thing that jumps out at me at DraftKings, and that is the race to 5 goals. Neither is minus 125. There ain't a team going to score 5 goals tonight. That's where I'll lay my cards.
I do. I kind of like that look. If you look back at where Colorado started at home against St. Louis, we thought that was going to be a free-for-all, but the first 2 games went under, don't forget. Colorado's defense is underrated. They do have a strong defense, and I think the big issue is going to be how the refs are calling this series, because if they call this a tight series and Colorado keeps ending up in the penalty box, they're going to have problems because their penalty killing hasn't been very good, and that gives up goals in bushels. But if they're able to stay out of the penalty box, that's going to keep the games lower scoring and is going to really put the pressure on Edmonton.
I don't think it's that big of a deal either way, though, because I think Edmonton's in the same boat. If they end up getting too many penalties, they're in trouble. They're the underdog team here. So they're not exactly the greatest penalty kill of all time either. How many power play goals did they give up in the first 2 rounds? I don't know.
Well, they're killing 85% of the penalties, but Colorado's only at 73%. That's quite a difference.
I think most of that was against the Kings, who have an awful power play. So I'm just saying, I got to look at the numbers. I don't know. But I think that's a factor. No doubt. I mean, officiating is always important, but you can't rely on that because you have no idea where that's going to go. Bottom line is Edmonton is playing so much better since the coaching change, specifically the defense. It's not even close. And you got to give them all the credit in the world. The guys come up from Bakersfield of the American League to take over this team. And from Dave Tippett, a guy that I know very well from my IHL days, Dave Tippett is a great coach and a great teacher. And this guy in Woodcroft, who I knew nothing about until he showed up, he's turning out to be Scotty Bowman #2. I mean, he looks fantastic. I love everything he's done, and he comes across in a really positive way, and he's going to be around a long time.
I think the difference here also is that for the first time, Edmonton's going to be facing a team where their defensemen can play offense also. So they're not going to catch the defenses flat-footed like they were able to in the first 2 series.
Good point.
I think that's going to be a little bit of a difference also. For me personally, again, not in on the series pre-flop, but I kind of think that this series starts off. I know the last series with Edmonton had 9 goals given up, but I have a feeling it's going to go a little bit more the way the Colorado series opened up with St. Louis, and I'm going to probably come in on the under 7, which I already have, And I don't want to be laying the 185, but I'm going to look toward maybe a regulation bet. I think that's going to be my angle. And as far as the puck lines that people like, I just don't want to lay -1.5 ever. I'll combine the money line and create my own -1 line, which I might consider also tonight. What do you see for tonight, Ted?
I see a heck of a hockey game. I can't wait for this game. I've been prepping for this for a couple of days now and listening to hours, way too many hours of sound from every damn player and every coach. And now the GMs are talking. So I'll have Joe Sakic on my pregame show. And you talk about a guy that's done a hell of a job. How about Joe Sakic, who's one of the great players of his era? And he turns out to be one amazing general manager because he's fitting guys in and adding people at the trade deadline that are just really doing the job. I just see this as I think it's going to be a tighter checking game at the start. I would lean towards the under. I mean, how do you lean towards, I got to get 8 to win this baby? So I would lean towards the under, specifically in a let's feel them out game 1 as well.
I like Lou's take on the nobody hits 5 goals. I think that's a good angle, Lou. One last moment on this series. Colorado, Detroit, 30 for 30 promos. Boy, am I looking forward to that. Boy, if anybody's unfamiliar with that rivalry, you're in for a real treat when that comes out.
Yep.
Lou, Tampa Bay, New York Rangers. Give me some insight here. Where are you going on that?
Well, again, I'm still formulating opinions, but as far as the Florida Tampa Bay series was concerned, the one thing I did get right there was that it was a boat race. I just had the wrong boat in the wrong race.
That's a good one.
But and I have to come clean with that because I put my name on it, but I'm going to keep my name on it. And here's what I'm going to say. First of all, 9 days rest is going to take Tampa out of that funk. It's going to take especially Vasilevsky out of that funk. And the last thing they needed to see was Shesterkin and a bunch of young leg kids that don't know that they shouldn't be there. I'm telling you, the Rangers are a live bunch, and I love them in game 1.
Yeah, I think they're a live bunch in game 1. For the series is a whole different ball game. Don't know if I trust them against this kind of experience. It's something like I think I can't remember the number, but I believe Tampa Bay is close to 400 games of playoff experience, something like that, and the Rangers are like 20, whatever.
Wow.
It is. And that means I exaggerate a little bit on the Rangers. I don't know what their number is, but it isn't even close. And it's a young roster. It's the kind of thing I don't like that matchup. And certainly Vasilevsky's Vasilevsky. If you bring him out of bed, on New Year's Day, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a story of young legs. I really believe that's what I thought it was going to be with Florida. I missed it by a series. I'm going to stay consistent, and it's not to take anything away from the greatness of Tampa Bay, but along with all those extra playoff games and experience comes 20-25% extra time on the ice while the other guys are golfing. So I think it can work both ways. I'm going to hang my hat on young legs.
Yeah, the good news though for Tampa Bay is they were golfing all week, just taking it easy. So
they needed to.
Yes, they did, and that's going to help, but not for game 1. It won't.
Well, we still don't have Point back in the lineup. We kind of expected him last series, and it doesn't look like he's coming in anytime soon. And I think the Rangers actually get a nice break because they didn't have to face, one of these 2 overtime game 7s. I mean, they were in control from the first period on.
Yep.
And so they're not going to be exhausted and whipped. And as you guys have mentioned, young legs, young spirit. I don't think there's going to be any game 7 hangover. And let's not forget that the Rangers were 3-0 against this team in the regular season. Not that that necessarily matters, but it's just still something to kind of look at. Outscoring Tampa Bay 10-4 during the regular season, but for the series price, I was shocked that it was this high. I do like Tampa Bay. to win this. I just think the experience is going to be too much for them. But I'm not laying 185. I don't want to lay anything near that. I think when you're sports betting, you have to look at what value is. And there's certainly no value in laying minus 180, 185 on that series price with Tampa Bay. But, value doesn't always win, if you're taking the Rangers here either. So I kind of like what you guys have indicated, where there might be some cobwebs with Tampa Bay early on. And, I want to sit the series out and see what goes on. I do kind of lean a little bit, though, with Tampa Bay, but I haven't made a decision. Have you formulated any game one selections, Lou?
No, but here's what I will say on a macro sense. I don't mean to derail us. I think that the East is a battle of goaltenders, and it's a battle of from the goal out. That's the kind of hockey I need to see. The battle of the West is going to be wide open, free skating offense, and therefore the cup winners coming from the East.
Well, that makes sense. Again, I want to continue to stress the word experience, though. In many ways, the NBA and the NHL playoffs don't mirror each other at all, but experience they do greatly. Okay. If you've never been there before, chances are, and this goes back for decades, you're not going to go too far. There are very few exceptions to that rule. We're now down to the final four. In that respect, I see it very difficult for the Rangers to be able to beat Tampa Bay. And I'm not that much into Tampa. I had my issues about them not having Braden Point in the last series, and here we go again. And that doesn't help. But their experience is just immense. And unless they get skated right off the ice, which I guess is possible, but I can't see it happening in the playoffs because they know how to put the clamps on when they need to do it. I just don't know how the Rangers could do it.
I think that the end of the series, they're going to say that Tampa could never get started. And we don't need to beat this dead horse. You're clearly on the side of experience, and I think that the experience eventually wanes and gives out. We'll see how it goes. I'm 0 for 1, so Ted, you're probably looking good.
No, I'm 0 for 1 too.
Yeah, I guess we were on that one together.
I was 0 for 2. I mean,
at least one of us is going to get on the win column then.
I'm only doing that just so I can get in the win column. No,
I do think that Tampa Bay has it in mind. I mentioned it in the last video. They want to accomplish something more than a two-peat because they want this dynasty type tag. And you're not going to get that dynasty tag unless you get that third victory. So I think that they're going to be properly motivated. But, Valkolevsky, I can't pronounce his name.
Vasilevsky.
Standing on his head, the last 8 clinching games, think about this, 8 games has given up 2 goals. I mean, think about that. The team as a whole, I believe, is won 17 or 18, maybe even 19 in a row on rebound games or
17.
17. So, boy, that's just those are just strong.
And what happens if that goes away? What happens if the Rangers win game 1, then they do win game 2? And then all of a sudden now you're searching. I'm telling you guys, I think that you're reflective of the many. And the many could well be right. But I think experience is being weighed too much here. And I think Vasilevsky looks more like regular season than postseason.
And when we're talking about experience, let's not forget about Gallant. I mean, what a mistake for Vegas to let this guy go. He comes from the Red Wing hockey town when they were a successful Tree, and he's got this team playing very well. I agree with you, Lou. They're definitely live. I don't think this is a series to take lightly.
I like Gallant a lot. First of all, he's got no Stanley Cups, okay? And John Cooper does. And John Cooper has proven to be a very special guy when it comes to being a player's coach. And Gallant is very similar. I love Gallant. I was at every single Vegas game when they were in the finals the first year, and I interviewed him a few times. I love his attitude. I love how he deals with everything. So I'm not putting him down, but he's never won anything. Okay, so that's fine. Get to the finals. I give you 1,000 guys' names who did that, and they're still waiting for their first ring. So I'm not saying he won't get it. I'm just saying you're doing it the hard way with a young kid group like this. It makes it difficult. You're really, really doing it the hard way. I hope I'm wrong, because by the way, I expect it to be a long series, and I hope so because I get paid by the game. But that's a separate issue.
I'd just like to throw out some stats, courtesy of Dave Tooley, who always tweets out, what's going on. Round 2 favorites, 14-8, and going through the entire NHL playoffs, home favorites our favorites in general are 47-26. Last round, though, the home teams were only 12-10 in round 2, but they're still 44-29 overall. So those are kind of interesting stats. And as far as the totals go, we saw lots of overs early, but the unders were 13-9 in round 2, and the overs still lead 40-31. Any comments on those stats, guys?
Well, go ahead, Lou.
I'm sorry. As predicted in round 2, home teams fell off. The regression to the road team came back. As we discussed, that really was the issue for me in round 1, and why I won money in round 2 as well, some of those unders. So that's all well and good. Again, it's all focus forward.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for Carolina, that number from a home ice standpoint would have been really screwed up. So, you think about that. I mean, that series was nuts, and it was by form, which never happens. So
I only won one game of that series, and it was the last game.
Well, good.
I should have played the Rangers the last game to get off a little bit, but so I'm out of bullets. You guys have any more bullets to talk about for round 3?
Well, I just want to stress that I just don't see the inexperience of Edmonton, and we're talking. I hate just going chalk here, but I don't see the inexperience of Edmonton and the Rangers getting to the Stanley Cup final. I just don't see it. Colorado is so damn good. We know that they've not got past the second round forever. Well, they're here now. Edmonton hasn't either. Okay. So forget all that crap, because that's all it is. It's just old news. Has nothing to do with this series. The matchup, Colorado is deeper. They're stronger from an offensive standpoint at the blue line. When they could, their power play should be just as good with or without McDavid running all over the place. I can't wait to see it, because I love the fact that our series is going to be in the spotlight big time. This is the kind of matchup this league has been looking for a long time.
Lou, final thoughts?
I'll agree with the Edmonton and Colorado thoughts. I do think the experience of Colorado and that hunger, they've had their face rubbed in it. Edmonton is not. The difference when I talk about the Whales is the same difference in 2012, and you'll know this well, Ted. What threw a monkey wrench in everything? Jonathan Quick. What's going to throw a monkey wrench in everything? Whatever, Igor Shesterkin, period.
Could be. It's the battle of the
they're the same.
goalies.
They're the same guy on the same team in the same situation, similar situation.
Yeah, except for Jonathan Quick didn't have to face Vasilevsky. That's the only difference.
He faced plenty of good goaltenders.
No, he did, but there's no Vasilevsky that stood out that year. You had 2012. I always get it mixed up. Was that the Rangers or was that the Devils? Which one was that? The first one.
The Rangers.
The Rangers. Okay. So you had a King Henrik, right? Who was great, but he wasn't that great in the series.
That's what they're going to say about your boy in 7 games.
He's not my boy. He's the boy.
Well, you're hanging your hat. You're hanging your hat on Vasilevsky and the experience, and I get it. I just think that's
won titles. King Henrik never won a damn thing. There's a big difference.
Well, my final thought is Tampa Bay. I think the Rangers are live. I don't think there's any value in betting them. Colorado, I think, might be a little tighter played than people are expecting, but I see them pulling that out, and I kind of like them game one. That's all
I
have.
If you like the Rangers, this is to me. It's like okay, maybe you take them in game one because of the rust factor, but you can lay off from a series standpoint. Hope they lose game one, and then you could pile it on.
Well, yeah, actually, Ted, I have a 25-1 ticket on the Rangers to win the Whales.
Oh yeah,
so that it will surely influence how I attack that series, no question.
Yes, and I will give you $10 for that right now.
Speaking of $10, buy your book.
25 of who's counting. Thank you. There it is on Amazon, boys and girls.
It's probably 20 though, right? I don't know.
It's 25, but they discount it all the time. Amazon does whatever the hell they want. They raise prices at Whole Foods and they screw you online. So whatever.
Well, we appreciate everybody for joining us. Hope there was something to learn or not learn. Don't forget, don't ever subscribe. And don't ever like anything and never comment on anything.
And this is the perfect place to come, guys, if you don't want to learn. I mean, that's the bottom. Hey, by the way, again, I don't want to overhype my own personal hype, but all of our broadcasts on sportsusamedia.com. You can also get it at nhl.com. We are airing every single game through the Stanley Cup Finals. So hope you get a chance to check it out. 4:30 p.m. West Coast time today is my pregame show. Thank you.
And Lou, we can always find you at gamlou.com and on Twitter, right?
At Gamblou, that's correct. And all my information is free to those that still want to read it.
All right. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy the
next
hockey.
time.